What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the CFB Whisper Show. I'm your host, Cameron Rodriguez. I just wanted to hurry up, jump on here, had a few minutes, and of course make this video, threw it together. That is in reference to Billy Napier and the status of his job moving forward. This is stuff that we've been covering for a hot minute now. If you've actually been paying attention to the videos, you would know that some people wish he was already gone. Some wish that, he would return. Others they're just not happy down there in Gainesville. I'll just say that, to say the least. So we finally got our answer, though. And before I hop into that, because there's some things that I want to make sure that I discuss, if you're a first-time viewer, go down there, like, subscribe, obviously share, hit that ring notification so that you're notified every time I release a new video. But again, with that said, your support means the world to me. I don't want to do this without you guys. Can't do it without you anyway. So again, go down there and do that for me. That would be great. But diving on into this, went ahead and wanted to share this with you guys since this was obviously breaking news here. Here's what we got with the status of the Billy Napier returning. So he is. Essentially, I mean, we are looking at a situation here where Billy Napier has not really done arguably what we're accustomed to seeing Florida doing, especially when it comes to competing for not just national championships, but SEC championships or just winning in general. It doesn't really seem like they're winning much. So it only makes sense. I believe he has one of the worst, if not the worst, overall record a head coach has ever had at the University of Florida. And I know a lot of Florida fans are not happy about that. But since Scott Strickland released the news today, he actually dropped a statement, as you can see here, a little bit small for you, but I'll go ahead and read it off so that you guys know exactly what he said. He said, "Listen, Gator Nation, I wanted to let you know that Billy Napier will continue as head coach of the Florida Gators. As we've seen these past several weeks, the young men on this team represent what it means to be a Gator. Their resolve, effort, and execution are evident in their performance and growth each week, building a foundation that promises Gators success next year and beyond. UF's commitment to excellence and a championship caliber program is unwavering. In these times of change across college athletics, we are dedicated to a disciplined, stable approach that is focused on long-term sustained success for Gator athletes, recruits, and fans. I am confident that Billy will meet the challenges and opportunities ahead. We will work alongside him to support any changes needed to elevate Gator football as college athletics evolves. UF is committed to embracing innovation and strategy, ensuring the Gators thrive in today's competitive landscape. Gator Nation has remained strong, showing up game after game to stand with our team. This loyalty creates an incredible environment that inspires our players to compete with heart and determination. So I ask you, Gator Nation, to continue standing behind Billy and his team as we work together to build a championship program." Scott Strickland. There's a lot, honestly, to unpack there. But I will say this. If I'm a Florida fan, I'm extremely happy that we finally got our answer. I mean, I couldn't imagine. There was a lot of conversation around Lagway. There was a lot of conversation around the transfer portal. Would it make sense if they got rid of if they got rid of Billy Napier? Then there's that possibility that DJ would be gone. There's that possibility of another coach. Yes, granted, they might bring in their own players, but starting that process all over again, and then you look at what Florida's been able to do the last couple of weeks. If you were to ask me, I'm not going to say specifically I believe he should return. I'm kind of on the fence with it, if I'm just going to be very honest. I'm on the fence, and I'm only on the fence for one reason. Coaching, especially game day coaching, is extremely crucial for the success of a program. Of course, you have a ton of other variables that go into things. You have, recruiting, you have development, and then, of course, all the other departments, the people that you choose to surround your players with in terms of their personal development. And obviously, just finding good quality people in terms of players to come in who understand what the goal is, what it means to be at the University of Florida, and just compete at a high level. I mean, it is a prestigious school. They were number one public ranked school academically. I believe they dropped to number 2, but they've been number 2 for quite some time, if I recall correctly. But in terms of an athletic perspective, I mean, the entire athletic department, I mean, they're called the everything school for a reason. For as long as I've been alive, in my short 32 years, they've competed for national championships in absolutely every single sport for the longest time. So I understand why a lot of people, especially you diehard Florida fans, why you wouldn't want Billy Napier to continue to be the head coach. But I'm kind of leaning more towards I'm happy that he's returning because I want to see Florida return to some sort of relevance. I do think DJ Lagway is your all's guy. I hope for Florida fans and that university altogether, because this would be terrible if this were the case, that Billy isn't technically demanding a generational 5-star number 1 quarterback Gatorade Player of the Year every single time one's eligibility runs out in order to execute his offense at a high level. Let's just hope that's not the case, because if that's the case, then he'll find his way out faster than normal. Technically, a lot of you, again, think he should already be out, but I digress. Let's just continue to move forward here. All right, let's think about it like this. I also have some other things that I want to go over. If I were to share a couple things with you guys, I'm looking at things from a little bit of a different perspective. Coaching is obviously one thing. Coaching is a huge, huge, huge issue, right? Coaching in terms of the games, specifically to start the season this year, Billy Napier didn't have his team ready. I mean, we're talking about Miami. We're talking about one of the biggest just rivalries in all of college football. They haven't technically played each other on an annual basis. They haven't played college football in months. They've gone through all offseason. They've competed against each other. They've gone through spring and fall camp, and you would think that these players would be up and ready to go. You would think this coaching staff would have these players up and ready to go. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. That came out flat, and they had legitimately no identity. And that didn't just stay the same for the opening game. That actually continued all the way through the Texas A&M game. It almost seems as though Florida didn't really start to find some sort of identity until that Mississippi State game. And then that kind of carried over into the Tennessee game. Obviously, it's very unfortunate that Billy Napier seems to find himself on the injury side of things the majority of the time. I've actually never seen a head coach that's had this much unfortunate luck. I've never seen 2 quarterbacks go down to potentially season-ending injuries like they did when they were ahead competing, or at least competing in games that they had no business legitimately competing in. I mean, we're talking about Tennessee. That defense is incredible. You guys have heard me just reiterate that a million times in previous videos. And of course, that was in Neyland Stadium at night. Tennessee's on the verge of obviously, contending for a national title, not just an SEC title. I mean, they were ranked in the first playoff rankings this past Tuesday. So, Tennessee kept that, or Florida kept that pretty close. And then, of course, Graham Mertz goes down. DJ comes in. He's that savior, scores with a little over a minute left, takes them to overtime. They lose the game. Similar to, the Georgia game as well. DJ comes in. Granted, he wasn't lighting the skies up. I believe he only had 2 completions on 6 attempts. But the crazy part about that game for me is that it was actually tied with a third-string quarterback that played in an Ivy League school, but yet he never seen the field at all. The only time he's actually played by the time he graduated high school and went to college, despite him being on the roster in college, he never actually saw the field, which I think is just insane. And we threw him out there, we as in Florida, right? Because I'm discussing Florida here. And that game was still tied with a little over 5 minutes left. I just don't understand what flipped, but obviously something flipped. These players are playing for Billy Napier. And so with that said, there are a ton of things that we could, say to break this down, especially when you look at his overall records, which I have here on the screen for you. And if you look at his record versus the rivals that Florida is accustomed to actually beating, that they haven't beaten in quite some time. I was actually texting a buddy earlier today. He told me, did you know that Florida, if they don't hit 500 minimum or more this season, that they will be on their 4th losing season in a row? Now, let's just take that and transition into this. As you can see, when Billy Napier took over at the University of Florida in 2022, he had a record of 6-7, 2023, 5-7, and so far this year he's 4-4. He's been able to recruit, I wouldn't say at an extremely elite level, but he's really been able to build a roster. I mean, he's completely flipped that roster over, specifically on the defensive side of the ball and at the skill position on the offensive side of the ball. Florida has not been able to recruit a five-star athlete to save their lives for years. Granted, they would get one every now and again under previous coaching staffs, but they officially have been able to gather a couple. We're talking about the number one quarterback in all of college football in DJ Lagway, and then, of course, the number one defensive end in LJ McCray. And then he was able to produce an All-American that he brought over as far as the offensive lineman from Louisiana. Billy Napier knows how to recruit. He definitely knows what it takes to win. Unfortunately, there just seems to be some sort of disconnect in how he's operating, who he's hiring. There's something internally happening from an operational perspective, in my opinion, that just isn't clicking, and it needs to click. And if it doesn't click in year 4, he might find himself out before the season even ends, and before the season even hits its halfway point. So that's really something interesting to keep an eye on, in my opinion. I think that Billy Napier has the right idea. I think he's kind of hit a couple of roadblocks that have been a bit unfortunate for him and his circumstances. But I do believe in this roster. I do believe that there's a ton of talent on this roster. I do believe that Billy Napier is capable of making it happen with what he's been able to bring in if he gets out of his own way. I believe if I had read somewhere earlier, part of the agreement, now you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because I definitely don't want to be spreading false rumors or just making things up, but I definitely saw earlier today, I'll have to go back and make sure I understand who put this out there so I can reference it correctly and give credit where credit's due. But we all know DJ Lagway likes Billy Napier. We all know DJ Lagway seems to be a legitimate Gator and he wants to bring Florida back to some sort of, relevance. But part of the agreement in order for him to return, despite how this season's going or how it might even end, is he has to bring on an offensive coordinator. And I was also reading that they have to make some adjustments in terms of terminating some coordinators. That's kind of curious. I'm kind of interested to see who they're referring to exactly, because if I'm not mistaken, we already have done that a couple of times throughout Billy's tenure at the University of Florida. So super interesting stuff. For Florida fans' sake, let's just hope that Billy Napier takes this offseason very serious. We've all seen what DJ Lagway has been able to do when he's taken first team reps in practice leading up to a game where he's going to be starting. Just imagine what it might look like if this defense is able to pick up where they're currently playing right now to start the season next year. And this offensive line is obviously able to, play fundamentally sound, protect the quarterback. They're playing out of their mind, it seems as so right now. So super exciting to kind of see the development and the transition of the team altogether, who's returning, who might leave. We do know one thing's for certain, and that is DJ Lagway will be returning. And he really does want to, again, bring this program back to relevance. So not really sure what your all's thoughts are on it. I know I've been reading all of the Gator Boards chats and channels. I've been going on Twitter and Instagram, and I've been just dialing in. And it's been, in my opinion, a pretty solid 50-50 split in the fans and who, whether or not they want him to stay or they don't want him to stay. All I can say is I'm willing to give the guy one more chance if the team continues to play the way they're playing at this very moment. I think college football is better when the University of Florida is at its highest. I do think that next year, despite what the schedule looks like, is going to be a pretty solid year for Billy Napier. And if not, well, then guess what? He's had 4 years to do it, and he'll find himself out the door pretty fast. So all in all, if I were to just scroll down here, as you can see, that offensive lineman that I mentioned earlier that he brought from Louisiana right there, Osiris Torrance. But really, there's a lot to really kind of break down with this. I'm kind of more interested in what your all's thoughts are. what you guys have to say. If you're a Florida fan, definitely, obviously, follow the channel because we talk about Florida here quite a bit. But let us know your thoughts. Let us know your opinions. I mean, it's kind of a big deal. I mean, this is the whole future of your program, and you have to potentially live through another losing season next year if Florida and Billy Napier are unable to deliver what they expect to produce on the football field. So thank you guys again, seriously, for tuning in. Of course, as you know, I'm the host, Cameron Rodriguez. Just call me Cam. This is a quick just breakdown of the breaking news that happened in terms of Scott Strickland announcing that Billy Napier will be returning as the head coach for the Florida Gators in 2025. So again, curious for your all's thoughts and opinions. Go ahead and drop them down there. Hit that ring notification so you guys are notified every time I release a new video. Would love your all's support. But until next time, let's go, baby. CFB Whispers out.